You were later, of course, to appear as a junior with your father. Did you share traits in common in terms of your approach to your practice?
No, I don't think so. That was an interesting question. I'd never given thought to it. I didn't appear with him very often. For a long time, he had a large amount of his practice was appearing for BHP in relation to industrial accidents at the Newcastle Steelworks. He had a series of regular juniors, all who became very important. Philip Jeffrey became a Supreme Court judge, but suffered a massive brain tumour very shortly after his appointment, which cut his career short. He was quite brilliant, Philip. We were very good friends. John Coombs was his junior in BHP, and Barry O'Keefe also. But on occasions, and I've got a photo of it actually in Newcastle. I think when Barry O'Keefe was busy and couldn't be his junior for a particular sittings, I got the job, and I appeared with him in that. I remember appearing with him in a tenancy case. By that time, I was a bit of an expert in landlord and tenant law, and this was a good example actually of the generalist silk, with the general knowledge of law, the cross-examination skills, the brilliance in the putting together of a case, but with a junior who knew the law on the particular subject on which the silk perhaps didn't have that detailed knowledge.
Nowadays it's somewhat the other way around, isn't
it? Yes, very much.
There's just one other little anecdote about your father I would like to share with everybody, which you alluded to in your memoir, Looking Back, about your housekeeper, Cookie.
Yeah, well, yes. I suppose towards the end of the war, when taxes were very high, Dad did quite a lot of work for the Commissioner of Taxation. And on this particular occasion, he was appearing for the Commissioner against someone of Scottish background whose name, as I recall, was Charles Ewan Cameron. You couldn't get much more Scottish than that. I can't remember how Cameron was alleged to have underpaid his income tax, but it was something to do with I think, gold mining. Anyway, Dad cross-examined Cameron for some time very effectively. And that evening, the family was sitting down to dinner. I wasn't there, but we had a very wonderful housekeeper who very much brought me up, named Mrs. Cook, whose nickname was always Cookie. She was always called Cookie, and she was a very good Catholic. After she left us, she went to look after the priests at Braidwood. And the phone rang while their mum and Dad were sitting down to dinner, and Cookie answered the phone and called Dad to the phone. He picked it up, and the conversation, I gather, is reported to have gone like that. Is that Mr. Cassidy? Yes. Mr. Jack Cassidy? Yes. Mr. Jack Cassidy QC? Yes. You Catholic bastard. Bang goes the phone down. Cookie's still standing there, and Dad turned to Cookie and said, "Cookie, you know, that man called me a Catholic bastard." And Cookie said, "But Mr. Cassidy, you're not a Catholic."
Was the caller did have a Scottish burr in their accent?
I've never heard that part, whether that's true or not. But of course, one of the fascinating things is that despite the fact that my father was very much of Northern Ireland and Presbyterian background, we do have a relative who is a cardinal, Cardinal Edward Idris Cassidy, AO, who was for a time, he's now retired, number 3 in the Vatican. And in his autobiography, My Service for the Vatican, written about 3 years ago, he tells the story about how he rose to that position in the Catholic Church without having either of his parents natural Catholics and being the child of a divorce. And he mentions in the book, well, more than mentions, speaks of his relationship with my father.
Well, perhaps I'm just thinking back to that phone call. Perhaps that was the most insulting thing that person could think of at the time.
I'm sure it was, yes.